Have you ever wondered if the biggest weapon against the Springboks isn't brute force, but something completely different? For years, rugby fans have believed that the only way to beat South Africa is to match them physically, collision after collision, minute after minute. But what if that belief has been wrong all along? Now, former All Blacks captain Sam Cane has revealed a fascinating insight that completely changes the conversation. He has exposed what he calls a major misconception about playing the Springboks, and more importantly, he has revealed the one quality that Dave Rennie has always valued above everything else when preparing teams to face South African opposition. With the rugby's greatest rivalry series just around the corner, this revelation could give us a huge clue about how Dave Rennie plans to take on the world champions. Could this strategy finally unlock the secret to beating one of rugby's most powerful teams? And if Sam Cane is right, fans may be looking at the upcoming tests in a completely different way by the end of this video. Before we dive in, if you love the latest All Blacks news, exclusive rugby analysis, and everything surrounding the rugby's greatest rivalry series, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to Kiwi Rugby News, and turn on notifications so you never miss a major update. The rivalry between New Zealand and South Africa has always been about much more than rugby. It is speed against power, creativity against structure, relentless attack against relentless physicality. Every generation has produced unforgettable battles that have shaped the history of the sport. And now another chapter is about to begin. As excitement builds for the rugby's greatest rivalry series, Dave Rennie has already announced his touring squad, with players arriving in South Africa in stages ahead of the opening fixture against the Stormers in Cape Town. One of the biggest talking points has already been the early arrival of Ardie Savea, who touched down well before the opening test. But while supporters have focused on player selections and travel schedules, Sam Cane has quietly shared something that may be far more important. Speaking alongside former All Blacks fly-half Stephen Donald and Sky Sport New Zealand presenter Kirsty Stanway-Thorne on the aftermatch, Sam Cane opened the curtain on how Dave Rennie approached South African teams during their successful years together at the Chiefs. It wasn't about trying to overpower bigger opponents. It wasn't about winning every collision. It wasn't about proving who was tougher. Instead, it was about being smarter. During the discussion, Stephen Donald admitted that whenever he played against South African teams, he always wondered what it felt like for forwards whose entire job involved smashing into enormous ball carriers over and over again. From a fly-half's perspective, making a handful of tackles was difficult enough. For forwards like Sam Cane, it was a completely different level of punishment. That question opened the door to one of the most revealing tactical discussions we've heard ahead of this year's rivalry. According to Sam Cane, when Dave Rennie coached the Chiefs, team selection often came down to one specific ability. Not size, not weight, not brute strength. The coach wanted elite chop tacklers, players who could get underneath massive South African runners, bring them to ground immediately, bounce back to their feet, and force them to repeat the process again and again. It sounds simple, but in reality it completely changes the battle. Instead of wrestling powerful forwards while standing upright, the idea was to remove their momentum before they could dominate contact. Rather than trying to win a contest that naturally favored bigger athletes, the plan was to avoid that contest entirely. As Sam Cane explained, getting trapped in high tackles and wrestling contests only played into South Africa's strengths. The smarter option was to win the shoulder battle, chop low, bring the runner down quickly, get back into the defensive line, and repeat. Again, and again. It was about efficiency instead of ego, discipline instead of desperation, technique instead of pure force. Looking back, Sam Cane admitted this philosophy perfectly suited his own game. He had built his reputation on being one of the most effective low tacklers in world rugby. His focus was never on producing highlight reel collisions. It was on ending attacks before they truly began. Although those tactical discussions took place more than a decade ago, Sam Cane believes the same principles remain incredibly relevant today. The Springboks continue to build their game around winning the gain line. Their powerful forwards generate front foot ball. Their physical carriers wear opponents down. And once defensive systems begin to crack, dangerous finishers take advantage. That identity has helped make South Africa one of the most feared teams in international rugby, which raises an important question. Will Dave Rennie return to the same blueprint that worked so well during his Chiefs days? Many fans believe the answer could already be hiding in his current selections. One player receiving increased attention is Luke Jacobson. His rise under Dave Rennie has not gone unnoticed. If low tackling and defensive efficiency remain priorities, then players like Luke Jacobson could become incredibly valuable throughout this series. Sam Cane didn't hesitate when discussing his former teammate. He praised Luke Jacobson as one of the hardest hitters in New Zealand rugby, highlighting exactly the type of contact skills that could prove essential against the Springboks. Every international series has defining moments. Sometimes it comes from brilliant attack. Sometimes it comes from a tactical kicking masterclass. Sometimes it comes from one defensive stop that completely changes momentum. Against South Africa, defense is rarely just about surviving. It's about creating opportunities. Every dominant tackle slows attacking rhythm. Every quick reload increases pressure. Every forced mistake creates possibility. That may be exactly what Dave Rennie wants his squad to deliver. But Sam Cane wasn't finished. He also challenged another belief that has existed in rugby for years. Whenever teams travel to Johannesburg or Pretoria, conversations almost always focus on altitude. Supporters often assume South African players enjoy a massive advantage because they supposedly live and train in those conditions every day. According to Sam Cane, that assumption simply isn't accurate. He explained that many Springboks don't actually play their domestic rugby at altitude. Only a limited number of teams are permanently based on the high veld. That means many South African internationals experience the same physical challenges as visiting players. In other words, altitude affects everyone. The difference isn't who avoids fatigue. The difference is who responds to it better. That mindset completely changes preparation. Instead of fearing the conditions, players are encouraged to trust their fitness, trust their systems, trust each other, and continue getting back into the fight even when their lungs are burning. According to Sam Cane, those altitude matches often become more open during the closing stages of each half. Fatigue naturally creates space. Decision-making becomes harder. Defensive lines lose shape. Tiny mistakes suddenly become match-changing moments. For attacking teams that remain composed, those final minutes can completely transform the outcome. That observation could become incredibly significant during this year's tour. The All Blacks are scheduled to play 4 matches at altitude. That includes blockbuster test matches at Ellis Park and FNB Stadium, along with clashes against the Bulls and the Lions. Managing energy across those fixtures will be absolutely critical. Depth will matter. Rotations will matter. Recovery will matter. Mental resilience may matter more than anything else. There is also another interesting layer to this story. During his time coaching the Wallabies, Dave Rennie enjoyed impressive success against the Springboks, winning 3 of his 4 meetings. Those results demonstrated that his tactical approach can challenge South Africa even when working with a different player group. Now, with the All Blacks at his disposal, supporters are wondering whether those same ideas can produce even greater success. Of course, nothing is guaranteed. The Springboks remain one of the toughest teams in world rugby. Their forward pack is feared across the globe. Their defensive system suffocates opponents. Their set piece remains among the very best. Their ability to apply pressure for 80 minutes has broken countless teams. But every dominant side eventually faces coaches willing to think differently. Perhaps that's where Dave Rennie believes the opportunity lies. Not by abandoning physicality, but by redefining it. Winning collisions doesn't always mean producing the biggest hit. Sometimes it means ending the contest before it starts. Sometimes intelligence defeats size. Sometimes discipline defeats power. And sometimes the smallest technical adjustment changes an entire test series. As the rugby's greatest rivalry series approaches, every training session, every squad announcement, and every tactical decision will be analyzed by fans around the world. Will Dave Rennie select players who fit this defensive blueprint? Will Luke Jacobson continue his rise? Can experienced leaders like Artie Savia help execute this demanding strategy under immense pressure? And will Sam Cane's remarkable insight prove to be the missing piece in understanding how New Zealand plans to challenge the reigning world champions? Only the matches themselves will provide the final answer. One thing is certain. The battle between the All Blacks and the Springboks is never just another rugby series. It is a collision of philosophies, a clash of cultures, a test of courage, intelligence, endurance, and belief. If Dave Rennie succeeds with this approach, we may look back on Sam Cane's comments as the moment everyone was given the biggest clue about what was coming. What do you think? Is Sam